welcome everybody to our March 9th workshop. We have a couple of items on the agenda today talking about housing policy strategy as well as the naming rights discussion, and then followed by our preliminary view and discussion of our commission meeting on Tuesday. So with that said, Barry, I'll turn it over to you for item one.
Good morning, Commissioners. The first item is a countywide housing strategy, and Evan Johnson has a presentation prepared. As you're well aware, we discussed this previously, and there's been a lot of work that's been accomplished up to now and a lot of input from different groups. So he's going to walk through a brief presentation and update you where we're at and kind of the path forward.
Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Evan Johnson, Planning Division Manager. And as Barry said, I'm going to walk you through a quick update of where we're at with the countywide housing strategy and answer any questions you might have. Yes, sir. Oh, sorry. No problem. Ooh, that's much louder. So there are several elements to the housing strategy that we've been talking about now for a couple of years now. And first, the countywide elements include our ongoing programs, including the new Penny Forward program that you all are very familiar with. Our summit that was completed last year at the end of 2020, the Housing Compact, which I'm going to talk in more detail today. There's also some work we're doing in the unincorporated county itself, including some land development code work and the manufactured home housing strategy, which you'll hear more about at a future work session. So today I'm going to focus on mostly those two red items and walk you through where we're at with those. So first, for those of you who didn't watch every session, though I think most of you at least were there for most of them, we did have a virtual housing summit series. This replaced what we had hoped would be an in-person series. We averaged about 130 people per session, and we're really excited. It was a great opportunity for us to work with our marketing communications folks and use new formats and platforms to get the word out about different topics in and around housing. And then the Housing Compact. So this has been something in discussion now for since the end of 2019. And the idea here, as this vision states, is to create a countywide compact between local governments in order to really simplify and standardize as much as possible some of our work in affordable housing. I think, we have 25 local governments. There's a lot of strength in that, but there's also a lot of challenges when it comes to coordination, as you know. So we're really looking to use this model as a way to get us all on the same page, particularly when outward facing to the community as well as to investors from around the country. So our partners in the collaboration, as I mentioned, started at the end of 2019. The main partners that we have been working with closely are those on the right, or my right, Clearwater, Largo, Pinellas, of course us, Pinellas Park, St. Pete, and Forward Pinellas. And we've been working, we have a staff tactical team that's met several times in the crafting of the compact draft that you all have seen. So what are the main pieces of the compact document? There are four. First is a strategic focus areas, and essentially these are kind of major topics that we're all agreeing to work together towards addressing. There's an action plan, shared messaging and marketing, which is something that we've been discussing as far as where do people go when they're from outside the community to learn more about our housing programs, as well as just housing more generally. And a regulatory toolkit, which we hope will be a way to, through model policy, et cetera, to provide technical assistance to all of our communities when looking for ways to improve their regulations related to housing. So I'm going to walk you through the four areas real quick. The big focus areas include, as you've heard, connecting housing and employment. Again, following and augmenting the strategy around investment corridors. Health impacts of housing. We have our HIAP health planner who's very involved with this, and we want to continue to build that as we look at housing countywide. Social and economic equity, accessibility, whether that be due to age, disability, or other issues. And then this whole idea of public-private partnerships and making sure that we have support from market rate developers, nonprofits, the business community. All are going to be really important to us moving forward. So one of the first main steps we want to take after the compact is executed is going to be this action plan. And the purpose of the action plan is not, this isn't really a beginning. I mean, we all are working on housing initiatives in different ways. We're launching programs, et cetera. But this is really about identifying countywide targets that those who have signed the document can kind of support, and looking at common terminology. Again, there's a lot of different words and definitions in and around housing, different ways of looking at income, those types of things. We're trying to come up with some better ways to talk about it to our community to simplify it, as well as your short, mid, long-term goals. The shared messaging piece is pretty straightforward, but our goal is, particularly working with Forward Pinellas, is to develop a single online platform where people can come for information regardless of which community you're looking at or interested in. Trying to do a better job of print media, stories, press releases, all those types of things, as well as ongoing education. One of the things we learned from our summit is the fact that we can now do this, online webinars, et cetera, very affordably, and we've got a good team to do it, so we think we should continue to try to have those outreach efforts moving forward with the community. And then the regulatory toolkit. So as I mentioned before, I think this is, our goal here is to develop a series of model policies and codes and ideas and concepts that have been proven successful around the state, around the country, and things that can be utilized fairly easily from any of our communities. Particularly if you look at, we have 5 major partners now, but ultimately we hope to get many, many more of the municipalities signed on, and some of them don't have the capacity to develop these policies themselves. So we really want to be able there to help them, provide them technical support moving forward. And then finally, our schedule as it is right now, we're looking to finish a draft of the compact document, well, hopefully in March. Second and third quarter, we are looking to continue to work with our partner cities and their elected officials to get everybody comfortable with the final language. We're going to be starting our code updates for the unincorporated area, and you all will have a manufactured home work session in, I believe, September. And then finally, the fourth quarter, our goal is to have the compact signed by the end of the year, as well as have our unincorporated code amendments done by then as well.
When you
Yes,
get a
sir.
chance, Commissioner Long had a question.
Oh.
Good morning. Oh, excuse me. Good morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much for this very precise and well-done presentation. I'm really very grateful. I went through it very carefully. And there is one, in my opinion, glaring omission. And so I would really appreciate it if we could put it in there someplace, because I don't see, while it's great that we're planning for the future and how we can effectively and efficiently take care of our citizens and as it relates to affordable housing, what I do not see in here is the impact of climate change and sea level rise. The word resiliency and sustainability is not mentioned unless I missed it, and I thought I went through very carefully in any of your components of your strategic focus area. And I've been paying very close attention to the efforts that, for example, the city of St. Petersburg has been making to be able to develop in the high coastal impact areas, coastal high impact areas, or however you say that correctly. And so it seems to me that we would be very remiss, especially as it relates to the focus on improving the ability of our citizens to live in housing constructed in those areas. I know from our trip to Amsterdam that they were very, very focused on ensuring that they were paying attention to those areas. Whether you believe in the issue or not, that was a huge part of our climate compact that was signed, oh, by the way, when we did the signing ceremony, by 25 of our regional government entities. And that was a year ago in, I want to say, October. And I'm very proud to tell you that today we have 31 governments that encompass most of the west central coast of Florida. So did I miss it?
You did not miss it from the strategic focus areas. We do have a clause in the whereas clauses related to the importance of resiliency and sustainability. But you are correct. We didn't have a specific section focused on resiliency. And we've had discussions internally about how much to include within the housing compact versus all the work that TBRPC and all of our partner governments are doing on the resiliency side. One of the partners that I failed to mention earlier was TBRPC. They have been participating on our tactical team as well, reviewing the compact and having those discussions along the way. So where we settled right now was we were concerned about kind of too much overlap between and too much of a heavy lift with the housing compact versus the sustainability resiliency compact that we've signed as well. So that's where we landed, was to keep it simple and is focused on those housing related issues. But I absolutely agree with you, and we've had, I understand completely that it's an issue that we certainly are committed to addressing.
So may I do a follow-up, Mr. Chair? So with all due respect, and I mean that in the most genuine and loving way, if it's not in here, it doesn't mean that we really, really believe it. And I think we're remiss as a county government if that isn't mentioned in every component that we work on, because I happen to know that there are going to be millions of dollars available, not only from the private sector, but from our different governmental entities, for those agencies and governments that really focus on this issue. And I couldn't be more proud that our state legislature has their eyeball on this issue finally. So if we want to be proactive and position ourselves properly for our county opportunity to take advantage of those things, I think it has to be identified as a real value going forward. That's just my personal opinion. I'm only one of 7, so I will cede to the will of the rest of my colleagues. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Gerard?
I just had a question about your slide 8. Could you go back there?
Do I need to go back? There we go.
I don't understand the legend.
Let's see. Which one? This one?
Nope.
Developing an action
Next.
plan. Is that
Oh,
right?
the action plan?
No, one more. Yep.
This one? Okay.
So on the map there,
Yes.
what does it mean to be a 25 to 50% household and a over 50% household? Because, go ahead.
I can't quite see what's on that particular slide as far as the legend
Well,
goes.
the tan areas are above 50%, and the dark tan and the light tan are 25 to 50%, which doesn't make sense. If you
Here,
look at
I'll
the
pull it
map.
up real quick. If you give me a second. And my apologies. There we go. So those were, looking at it, it appears that this particular map, which was done as part of one of our housing analyses and isn't specific to the compact, was looking at the cost burdening of 25 to 50% cost burden. So we usually use 30 to 50, or
Okay.
50, and then 50 and above.
So it's not 25 to 50% of AMI, it's cost burden.
Correct. It's the cost burden percentage, yes, ma'am.
Because otherwise it's kind of reversed. That's
Sorry about that. I
not
apologize.
very clear there. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Flowers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On your whereas clauses, clause number 10, that talks about addressing the need to require a coordinated strategy for housing, construction, rehab, et cetera. Would that also include anything related to energy efficiency within the construction and development, which would help long term?
Sure,
for-
long-term cost. It doesn't specifically say that for the regulatory toolkit, but that is certainly something that we can we can add to that provision. So something along the lines of, not unlike some of what Commissioner Long was talking about when it comes to sustainability and energy efficiency, those types of things.
Adding that on the front end, you
Yeah.
know, when they're building the units.
Sure.
Go a long way. The other component piece is when you're looking at permitting processes and development in all of those different cities that are a part of this, and I'm very glad that they all are a part, which hopefully will mean that a developer in St. Pete has to develop to the same code standards in Clearwater as Pinellas Park, et cetera. So it won't be, I did this over here, so why can't I do this over here? Are you seeing or have there been any conversations as it relates to any difficulty in trying to meet similar construction standards to move towards affordable housing? And the reason I'm asking is because we built the first container home in St. Petersburg as a trial. And because that had never been done before, there was a whole lot of creativity with permitting on that. But it turned out to be good. And so now I'm seeing many more projects come online, two recently in St. Petersburg for container units that are, I think this last one is going to be like 36 units. And so I'm just wondering how, or if you all are even addressing that, because again, there are a lot of permitting things that go on with those types of construction that they're not there.
Sure, absolutely. Two thoughts. I mean, I think one of the things that we make clear within the compact is that it is ultimately, because we didn't want to mandate or try to mandate, because we can't, any type of similar exact same permitting processes and all of that. We always saw any of those local solutions as have to be addressed within their current code. And as you know, I mean, St. Pete has a certain sophistication in their code versus maybe even the county. Ours is a little less focused on, say, urban, because we don't have quite the same type of environment. So one of the things is we want to use the regulatory toolkit as a way to provide some guidance on how to do it, but we really are going to be dependent upon the local government who is assigned to figure out the best way to incorporate that into their process, their code, their comp plan, those types of things. With that being said, I do think one of the most important things about the compact or any type of these agreements is we really want this to be about sharing challenges and successes ongoing. So the best thing about St. Pete figuring that out and starting to figure out how to permit and deal with some of the uniqueness of, say, shipping containers is the fact that now when we, in our zoning group, needs to look at the same for our code, we can do that and have those discussions with staff as part of our ongoing discussion in and around the compact. So we hope that that will be a major positive outcome of all of this, is that we're just going to be having those types of conversations more regularly. And I think we've done a good job. I think our community development folks have been working really well across the county and talk a lot. And I think we're taking that to the next level with, Forward Pinellas and our work on the comp plan and the codes and the permitting processes, because, we need that same level of coordination to do the type of work you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Yeah, whenever we talk about strategies, I always immediately think about, SWOT analysis, and really as it relates to Pinellas County, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. What do you see as, I think there's some obvious things that jump out from an opportunities and threat standpoint within Pinellas County. As you start to mobilize different communities and reactive versus proactive efforts, what do you see as those, our major opportunities and threats here as it relates to doing something very strong and proactive on getting some affordable housing?
Yeah. Well, I think one of our biggest, I don't know if I would call it, it's probably more of a weakness than a threat per se. Threats would be things like, the costs of development keep going up, right? And I just saw an article this morning talking about the lumber costs now, because through the pandemic, we're having these spikes in the cost of lumber, which is a primary, that's what we use for most of our multifamily. That's 3-4 stories. So you have those types of ongoing threats. We have limited land, all those things you've heard a lot of before. I think one of our weaknesses as a community is probably just we don't seem to treat affordable housing in a somewhat similar way around the county from a regulatory standpoint. And I think the more consistency we can bring to that, if you think about it right now, we've got the 5 major governments, the largest governments, coordinating on this effort to get it pulled together as a compact. If you just have the 5 of us sign off and really agree to some of these types of changes, and you could streamline some of the processes, I think you'd make a huge difference in the ability for a developer, which come in all shapes and sizes, nonprofits to market level, really find out exactly what they can do, speak the same language across the different jurisdictions, particularly as it relates to affordable housing. I think that would be something that's a huge opportunity, and currently a weakness that we have is that we are so kind of disparate, and we all have our different ways of doing things. I think the marketing piece and the outreach efforts, we have a long-term need to change the conversation and to around affordable housing, what it means, what it looks like, why it's important. I think that's going to be a long-term effort, but I'm really excited about the idea of working closely with the Forward Pinellas under the Advantage Pinellas kind of umbrella and the work they're trying to do countywide to really get that messaging, not just from hey, these are the programs we have, but also like, this is why mixed income developments are important to the community and to the success of neighborhoods. We should be getting that word out, and I think that really could help us in a variety of ways in discussions that we have at a local level regularly.
How's the inventory, say, of the bus routes or the access to transit, so that we can get folks from where they live to working and that kind of thing? So, do we have a good sense of available inventory along some of those routes? Do we have possibilities there where if opportunities come up, we can be proactive in securing land? Maybe a developer doesn't have the vision for that little area, but we've got all of a sudden the land's available. And
Sure.
So do we have any kind of effort along those lines, doing kind of land inventory?
So I mean, I think the question around inventory overall, there's several. I mean, we have, first of all, you have all of your restricted units. We know where those are. We know the developments. We know how many are there. We know if they have certain restrictions on them for a time certain. We know when it's going to expire. That all is in the database. We have, particularly University of Florida right now, working with the folks at TBRPC, have been developing some information regarding the naturally occurring affordable housing. So kind of the places where you can get the market rate is much more affordable, where those units and buildings are. They're working on some analysis of that countywide that I think will be very helpful, particularly as it relates to show me what's in and around the corridors. Because one of the things we have is where are the potential areas where the most affordable housing could be threatened if suddenly we had significant private investment and we weren't paying enough attention, right? So that could be in redevelopment, gentrification, those types of things. We just need to know that. As far as the corridor specific, some of the work, I can speak from the unincorporated county first. We've been working on the North US 19, looking at corridor land use strategies and things like that in the unincorporated area. And one of the areas where we're going to be looking is, we've got a market study that says there's, and this is pre-COVID, and then we have a post-COVID kind of scenario, where commercial retail in certain areas just isn't going to work, and yet you have this land. So then we really want to focus on what are the types of incentives, concepts, things that we can start to move forward so that we can help a potential investor have that vision. And I think that's going to be something that's going to be happening on a lot of these corridors countywide. And I know that Forward Pinellas is still seeking to do their corridor planning efforts, which are going to be more multi-jurisdictional. They're going to be doing this same type of analysis as well, so that they can start to, where are those opportunities? What kind of unique incentives can we offer in those places? So There's lots
Commissioners.
of things going on for sure. Sorry.
And as you're also well aware, the limited bus service that we currently have from an operating standpoint prevents you from really utilizing, because it doesn't connect you to enough places. And that is a real need to expand public transportation options for people. If I put an affordable housing unit out there, but they can't get to a job, well then, it doesn't serve the real purpose. And so Forward Pinellas' plan is outstanding. The question is how do we execute on that? If you even are able to look at the densities within the modified comprehensive plan, if we were able to actually put that, and the challenges with doing that with neighbors, that where it's more of a suburban type environment now, and you look at the densities under the comp plan, it's more of an urban environment, that change is significant. But it would enable you, if we're able to put additional resources at PSTA to expand opportunities for people, that's really where you'd make these corridors work. And it would create opportunities to get to jobs, job training, and really create that environment. And it's going to take all those pieces to really create those corridors that are viable and now actually serve people.
Okay. Just one last question I had. So I think maybe at some point, maybe understanding a little bit more about the development concepts behind these mixed development units that we're talking about that are out there is going to be important, because in our county, finding a piece of land along these corridors is typically more expensive. I was trying to think of like an ISO line, economic ISO line, dollars per square foot land cost. Those corridors are going to be your most expensive ones. So we're really going to have to kind of leverage, I think, like we've talked about before, Barry, some of those market rate developments and bring the different levels of mixed income into those. I think it does two things. One, it allows the development to happen in a high corridor area that wouldn't otherwise happen. And it also does what we're trying to do, is it's mixing all the income levels together. But that becomes really challenging, and understanding that those concepts a little bit for us and for our partners is going to be really important. I just don't see how we're going to be able to land, and at the same time do those 60%, 80% and under that we're trying that we've targeted. Yeah. You're going to have some of those 100% too, but to make these developments happen, you have to have that mixed. I don't know how you do it otherwise along these expensive land cost corridors. So.
And I think, no, I absolutely agree. And I think there's a huge opportunity, particularly with market rate developers. I think you've seen some of that with some of the proposals under Penny 4, the recent ones that you all have approved for continued work, where we've been able to identify a set aside within one of these developments that is going to provide us, the types of affordable housing we really want to get countywide, because and I think that's a model that if we can make that work and scale up in a meaningful way and have people understand why it works most efficiently and effectively for the county, I think it should be a significant part of the work we do. I'm interested to see, and I haven't done a recent look to see at some of the land values and things like that, but I also think that we have some corridors that we know everything's really, really expensive. But we also have some corridors, a significant amount of corridors, where the retail is, diminishing, particularly post-COVID. We could be seeing some changes in how the market treats those. And as Barry mentioned, I think if you have good transit connecting those areas, there's potential for some significant multifamily development in those areas that could be mixed income, that allows for transit connection to other places. And we talk a lot about Lellman, and the possibility of the proximity to St. Pete and the ability for people who live in Lellman to get to St. Pete, or Pinellas Park to get to St. Pete for jobs. That should be a place where we're able to make something like that work, because you've got the location, it's not in the most expensive corridors, but it's got the proximity if you've got the transit.
Commissioner Long.
Yes, thank you again.
No problem.
Since we're on this conversation, it's timely and appropriate, I think, for me to share with you some information I just learned yesterday at our PSTA Legislative Committee meeting, because Harry Glenn was presenting, and he shared with us that some of you may already know this, but they're working hard to bring earmarks back, and each United States congressman has been given 10 allocations for putting their wish list into the bucket. And so the Congressman Young, I don't know why I keep saying that. He's always in the front of my brain. Congressman Chris has asked that we submit to his office our wish list by March 19th. Now, I know we're not having our federal delegation meeting until April 8th, I think it is, but Harry assured us that that would still leave us time to have the discussion with our federal partners when we do have that meeting. But I think the future could be potentially really bright for us, given that we position ourselves properly, because in the Clean Future Act, which again gets back to my desire to have us really focus on all of our mission going forward this coming year, the resiliency and sustainability issues, there's $16 billion targeted to come to Florida. And that will, in effect, potentially wipe out the $2 billion deficit that currently exists in our Florida legislature. And our transportation infrastructure dollars could potentially be directed to provide more electric buses on the highway and expand our fleet, which is one of the components in our PSTA legislative package. So maybe this is an opportunity for us all to get on the same page with the same message and the same mission, because the new FTA administrator is someone I actually have met. She's the former president of APTA. And so we've already started to reach out and build a relationship with her. So we're lining up our, that federal pipeline takes a long time to get through, but we're all starting the process already to line us up to be in position to take advantage of that. And I think that makes the future look very bright for the opportunities to provide better public transportation for our region.
I appreciate that, and absolutely would love to have any conversation we can have, for sure.
Commissioner Justice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of questions. One was, and I'm not looking for a negative on any one of our partners, but you mentioned that there was one of the reasons that we want to do something is that there's so many different ways of doing things in our different. What's a glaring example of a different way of doing something that would be frustrating to a developer?
I mean, I think the easiest that I can come to right top of mind would be just the way in which we deal with our affordable housing incentives. We have any of our entitlement communities, which include all of our major partners, would have specific incentive programs, and they all vary in how we do them. Some things are the same, but some things are different, whether that be the actual incentives or the process that we use to go through the incentive process. So I think that's a really, I wouldn't say easy one, but I think that's one that we're definitely going to be most interested in figuring out other ways that we can streamline and make them more similar across the most of the county through those jurisdictions.
Okay, that's good. And then just more kind of a high, 30,000 level, if we all come together and we have more than our 5 major, but we get some of the other municipal partners to sign on, at the end of the day, if this thing works perfectly, what does it look like on the horizon? What is the ultimate goal of this really working well?
Well, I think it's probably making affordable housing and the provision of housing as common a discussion as transportation and now resiliency in this community. I mean, I think that for us, we need to coordinate across all of the different, whether that be the engineering, planning, all of that. And I think we've had some good discussions about affordable housing. I think this board through the years has been really innovative and committed a lot to making these types of programs work. But I really think that this, speaking across the entire county in a way that it's just common knowledge as to how it works, why it's important, what we're doing, what's successful, I think would be a huge, I've been in Tampa Bay for 15, 16 years now. And so I've spent most of my time in Hillsborough, and I've been here for a couple of years. But just thinking about the way transportation and transit, the conversations have changed since the time I've been here, and what we're talking about them and how we're talking differently about them. The base level, the foundation of where we start our conversations has so greatly changed because, we just do things now. We don't, there are certain levels of improvements that we just do. We assume we're going to be done when we build a road, when we build a facility. And I think that's where we need to be with housing. I mean, I think we need to have a foundation where we have a certain expectation and it's written into our rules and we have our developer partners helping and hopefully we can do that using incentives, using the strategies and the financing that we've developed as the county to make that happen. But to me, the types of discussions and fights or disagreements that we can be having, I think those need to change over time. I think we all need to raise the level of education and understanding across all the jurisdictions in the county. And I think that'll help us make it a lot easier to move to the next level of success. So I don't know if you were trying to get me to say we'll have exactly this many units built, but I'm going to dodge that one.
No, I wasn't looking for that. I was looking for more of that global, why are we doing this kind of thing? So no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I think you were talking about in the developer's eyes, what do we need to do better at? And I think, Barry, we've talked about our building department, that process that you're going through, which I think is really an important one. I mean, I've been getting a few letters from people that talk about now all of a sudden we're looking at site plan and we have to look at them separately now. We're not looking at them together, so it's taking more time. And I know we're looking at a lot of different elements of that. So getting that piece done, whether it's for affordable housing or any other development, I think is going to be a big deal. So I would just continue to, maybe you already know in your mind that SWOT, the strengths that we have here, and just think in those terms for us. I think it helps us at least focus where we can really, make some changes on policy to help you with encouraging certain activities or discouraging others by that kind of process. So, any other questions, comments? Okay, yeah, I think developers are ultimately looking for that feeling from the community. They're looking for consistency. They're looking for clarity. They're looking for definitiveness, if you will,
Absolutely.
when they come in and do things. And so the more we have that together on our building department side, the more we have it together on our policy making side, taking into account congestion and all that, we can put up so many apartment buildings and then we can't move.
Right.
So I think we have to be mindful that we don't go too far with any of it. And then there's always the ownership side of affordability too that we have to continue to look at. So anyway, any other comments or thoughts before we move on? Did you have anything else?
No, that was it. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Barry, we'll move on to the second item.
So the next item obviously is the honorary and philanthropic naming rights policy. We've had some discussion on that, so I think it's on here for your discussion in terms of the direction you would like to proceed. As you're well aware, we do have a policy that talks about a process for naming. We've had 2 requests currently with judicial facilities, and so the way the policy would work is that I could name a committee, or you could decide it at your policy in terms of the direction you want it. So we wanted to have this discussion here. We do have it on for Tuesday's meeting. And that way it's available for you to act on if you choose to come on Tuesday, one way or another.
So again, I think the idea, we talk about policy, and then we talk about specific requests and how that, it's always, we never take, not never, but oftentimes we miss the opportunity to talk about policy when there's no names being considered or no, so that we can talk
Right.
before it's a really critical time to make a decision and either disappoint somebody or whatever, because it's kind of a spur of the moment type thing. So, so maybe we can first just get some thoughts from the commission about our policy, and are we comfortable with the general makeup of the policy? Do we want to adjust that? Things like, the county administrator appoints the committee versus us appointing the committee versus, are there any policy issues that we want to take a look at and change? Or we can just skip all of that and go right into the names that are being presented to us and how we want to move forward with those names. I'm completely open to how we want to address that. Or maybe want to address it's the wrong word, but need to address it. Yes, Commissioner Flowers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Burton, for the memo for guidance and just kind of giving some thought process about who you would consider serving on the committee going forward. There were two potential names on here, or two potential organizations, if this would be the will of the body for going forward, that I would like to see on this list if the group agreed to you appointing the individual persons to serve. And that would be the Pinellas County Urban League. And the other would be the Fred G. Menace Bar Association, because not all persons who are attorneys are a member of the General St. Pete and Clearwater Bar Association.
What was the last one you said? I'm sorry.
The Fred G. Menace Bar
Okay.
Association, and then the Pinellas County Urban League. Just looking at the list and keeping in tune with having persons from all aspects of the community, being able to weigh in. I'm not saying I support it or don't support it. I'm just giving my additions in reference to the memo that was provided by Mr. Burton, if we want to talk about
Okay.
a policy going forward past whatever decision we make regarding the courthouse decision
Mr.
today.
Justice had a comment to you.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarity, so that he doesn't take the bullets or whatever, I put out the memo, not Mr. Burton.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it was just,
Commissioner Justice.
yeah, the spacing on the lines are a little off, so I apologize for that.
Because I was reading it as if he did, so
So
sorry.
don't blame him, you can blame me, but
Thank you
this
for the
was,
clarification.
we talked about last week serving as what in the legislature we would have called a committee of the whole for this process, but if there was a will or interest in doing the traditional process of appointing a committee, I was just trying to think, what would that committee look like? And so that was what this list came from.
No problem. And I have no problem with all the people that are on here. And like you said, just because of the way it's slanted, I thought it came from Mr. Burton. So no problem with that, but I would just add those two additional bullets. Again, not saying I support either way, but thank you, Mr. Chair.
And again, the idea behind this is a particular group that we might form for this issue that we're talking about as it relates to our Justice Center.
Correct. This was specifically with the Justice Center, the request that we have in mind. Obviously, it's a law enforcement and legal and community organizations that would have an interest. If we had an interest in naming a park, then it would, certainly the committee would look different.
Right. Understand. So the idea, if we embrace that thought, that would be that we would reach out to these organizations and ask them to submit a name that would represent their organization to establish that committee. That's your thought. Okay. Any other comments as to this particular issue, the names and/or the policy in general? Anything? Yeah, it sounds like everybody wants to really tackle this one. Commissioner Gerard?
Honestly, I don't have any problem making this decision ourselves. And I think we've already been accused of being cowards for not wanting to make the decision. So I don't think it's necessary to do a committee, although, I'm sorry. Maybe my mic isn't on. I
It's
don't,
these things, you can't hear.
huh? No, never mind. I said personally, I don't have any problem with making this decision ourselves, and we've already been accused of being cowards for not making it, but I don't know. There you go. I don't have any problem making this decision ourselves. And I think every time we get a request, as a matter of fact, we got another request to include the name Robert Jagger with the on the Justice Center, which is a reasonable request. He was in office for 35 years. So I think it just opens the door to endless requests, to name things. I think we'd be better off just looking at the policy and deciding what we want there and looking at this particular request and saying yes or no, or providing an alternative. And that's all I have to say about that. I appreciate the maps of the facility that you put in there. That's very helpful. Because my suggestion is that we just name the state attorney's office. That was it.
Yes, Commissioner Long.
Yes, I have two thoughts. I agree with Commissioner Gerard. I don't have any problem making this decision at all. I do resent the fact that we are making an attempt to be thoughtful and deliberate and consider exactly what you said. These requests open the doors for us to start thinking about naming every piece of property throughout our county, which we all know are many. That's my number one. My number two comment is, the idea that we are not making a decision right now, hurry up in the moment, is a little bit of an off-putting thought to me, because this is how we try to make all of our decisions that come before us. And in an effort to take the emotion of the moment out of it, I'm curious, Commissioner Flowers, about your request to add the Ray G. Minnis Bar Association. Oh, I'm sorry, but you understand my question. Because right in the title of that association, it appears to me that there's already a bit of a bias, and I think our effort here is to be neutral, because we're talking about the scales of justice and the law. So I'm sure that some of the members of the Minnis Bar Association are also members of the St. Pete Bar or Clearwater or the Urban League or the NAACP. Would you not agree?
As I stated, those are my requests. You don't have to support them.
No, I understand. I was just curious.
I listened to you, so just allow me to answer. That's number one. Number two, no, not all attorneys who are a member of the Fred G. Minnis Bar Association are members of the the Florida Bar, St. Petersburg Clearwater chapter. I had a very long conversation with a few attorneys, so they're not all members, and they're not necessarily all members of the NAACP either. Not everybody who's African American is a member of the NAACP and would reference Mr. Fred G. Minnis. You don't have to include him. The reason I did that was because there are other individuals like police chiefs who some still are attorneys, and they could also be members of one of the other associations here. So if you don't want to go that route, that's fine. I just simply reference those as something for consideration.
Okay, thank you.
And yeah, maybe if I could just add to the conversation, since you are talking about voluntary bar organizations, and I have been a member of quite a few of those over my career. Just to give you some perspective, it is very common in larger counties like ours to have usually just one primary bar association, but we do have the St. Pete Bar and the Clearwater Bar, been that way forever. But again, in the larger counties, it's very common for there to be a chapter of the Florida Association for Women Lawyers, which Commissioner Justice has already highlighted here. But it is also common for there to be a historically black bar association, which would, in Pinellas County, be the Menace Bar Association. There may be some other specialty bars in this area. For instance, I know in Hillsborough County, it's based in Hillsborough County, but there is a Hispanic Bar Association. So, just to kind of get at the recommendation that Commissioner Flowers is making, the Menace Bar really is one of the, I'll call it, I guess, the specialty bar associations, similar to the Women Lawyers Association. But, I would agree with what she said, that you're not always going to find lawyers as members of all of the bar associations. And I just offer these comments just to give you all some perspective of kind of how the voluntary bar associations work statewide, but also particularly here in Pinellas.
Good point.
Thank you. And maybe we should decide, we don't need to argue over the committee if we're not going to appoint a committee. So that's one point. But maybe, Jewel, we had discussion on this. What is the current policy as far as the length of time after an individual's passing before they would be eligible for naming in our current policy?
There is nothing stated in your current policy. I think that a lot of us struggled with that a little bit because we felt like there was something in there.
You actually, the issue that you had is in 2005 and 2006, the commission discussed this 5 times over 6 months. And so when we pulled the original resolution, it had removed the 5-year moratorium on the window. But in further research and pulling up the last one, it looks like it was left in. So in 2006, in February of 2006, it still had the 5-year moratorium in there. That's what they used when they pulled this, when you were discussing the Rainieri Park and the Safety and Emergency Services of John Maroney. And so it's still your policy. So you can waive the policy. In fact, you did for the Maroney Center. You waived that policy. So it's still your policy, but that was what we believe is the last piece on the books. And I haven't discussed that with Joe, I don't believe.
It's not in the policy that you gave us. It's not in there, is it, right now?
No.
No.
I didn't see it in
No,
there.
I haven't, we didn't update that, but that's the reason I briefed you one-on-one on that, because that was something that staff had just found when they were trying to pull. But it was difficult to track because you had different documents loaded within our system over that time period. And so we went back to board records and said, what is the final one? That came up in, I think it was February of 2006.
And to add to that, I would say, and I apologize because the one that I had found trying to do my own research did not have it in there, but the one before you, if you look under the honorary, there's 2 policies attached. So go to what's marked as Exhibit B, honorary. Mm-hmm. It does say deceased for a period of 5 years or more, and that's under the definition section under B, where it defines individual. And that is what's attached to your 2006 resolution. But again, it is something that this is your resolution, and you could choose to waive it, and you have in fact.
So you're saying, where is it in here? Is it on, what page? I'm just I can't find it. I'm looking under honorary naming rights, and I don't see that. So I'm looking at the item that's on Granicus under B, page 3 of 4.
What I'm looking at is a copy of a resolution 06-27.
So you're not looking at this thing that we have on our Granicus that says honorary and philanthropic naming rights policy.
No, I have a printed out copy that I brought with me of your resolution from 2006.
Okay. All right, well, maybe we just need to make sure we have something.
Well, yeah,
We need to affirm a policy or amend
Correct.
the policy or do
The
something.
February of 2006 policy needs to be updated.
Okay.
And I think that's what's created some of the confusion, is like I said, when I was originally doing some research on this, the resolution that was readily available that I was able to find and was in fact posted on our website was the 05 resolution. But there was a subsequent one from 2006 that does contain that 5-year period of time, which would be weighted, upon someone passing.
Commissioner Justice, Joe.
Well, in that agenda item from February of 2006, in the summary item, it does say the individual's deceased for a period of at least 5 years, but it's not in the, and then it's in the attachment. So I don't see it in the attachment either, but so I'm not sure I just helped you at all there, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Yeah, just, again, I just think if there's an issue that the person must be deceased, must the person be deceased for 5 years on either one of those, philanthropic or honorary? I mean, I think those are important things to decide whether we want them in our policy, and unless subject to change by any commission.
Correct.
You know,
And that's
I
the reason we brought it up. It's, you're trying to create what was, a long time ago, and looks like there was a lot of discussion regarding that. But I wanted you to be aware what we believe is the final one that was adopted at that time. In fact, still had that moratorium, that time period in there. However, I think you got two separate issues. You got something before you that you need to make a decision one way or another, and then you also have the policy and whether, it's appropriate to look at the policy.
So, yeah, so that's going back to the very beginning. We need to either discuss the policy and make some changes or suggested changes, or just go right to the two names and how we want to deal with the two names that have been brought forward through committee or through a decision here by the commission. So, I mean, I'm not trying to deflect or not take these up. I don't think anybody here on this commission is worried about making decisions, but we do have advisory committees all over our county on different topics that we hear from on many, many issues before we make decisions. So it's not about being afraid to make decisions, it's about expanding our listening to folks that might have a thought that might be relevant to our decision-making process. So I'm not saying that every time we have to do that, but I think it's not about deflecting. We ultimately still have to make the decision, so. So do we want to deal with the policy issue today or not? Apparently not. So we're not going to deal with the policy issue. I'm assuming right now from what you said that in our current policy, the person must be deceased for 5 years.
Correct.
Okay. So if we consider somebody that has been deceased less than 5 years,
The waive your
then
policy.
we have to waive the policy
Correct.
as part of the motion. Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could. The resolution that I'm referring to is part of your Granicus item. If you look at the attachment that states honorary and philanthropic naming rights policies, and then it says final resolution 06-27. That, I think, is what the administrator is referring to as what we've been able to determine was the last adopted policy by the county commission. And if you find that attachment, on mine, it's the fourth one from the bottom.
I got you. I see that.
It's there.
I see the resolution here. That's different than what some of us were looking at, so.
Kevin just texted me
Looks
that
like
they
it's
did have
under,
put that in. Yeah.
under that resolution, Exhibit B, paragraph D, under the definitions, defines an individual as somebody who's been dead for 5 years.
Okay. Somehow.
We can thank Whitney for that.
Yeah, somehow these Exhibit Bs
Yep.
didn't make it through to the other piece that we had, so. All right, so that's, we're not going to deal with policy today. We've got a policy in place that says it must be deceased for 5 years. So if we're going to consider, I think the two names are before us. One obviously has been deceased for some time, more than 5 years, clearly, and the other a few months. So we'd have to waive that policy for us to consider whether we make the decision or send it to a committee. And then we must decide if we're going to do that committee or ourselves. And if the suggestions that have been made here by Commissioner Justice, with the addition of two additional ones, additional groups, as brought forth by Commissioner Flowers, giving us a total, looks like, of about 12 groups that we would ask for a representative to form the committee if we go that route. So do we want to consider the two names today in discussion? We'll make the decision, obviously, at a commission meeting. So what's the will of the commission about considering the names or considering a committee? Commissioner Gerard.
I have a question about, do we even need to, if we wanted to name the state attorney's office section of that building, is that something that we have to do, or can the state attorney's office do that themselves? I mean, I know it's our building, but.
Yeah, well,
I think this commission would be the appropriate body to make that determination because, as you said, the building is owned by the county, and I think it would be perhaps a dangerous precedent to set to start allowing other groups to name facilities the county actually owns and controls and is responsible for.
Commissioner Seal.
I would concur with Commissioner Gerard and Commissioner Long. Sorry.
Two
Whoops.
L's.
I'm comfortable naming the office after Mr. McCabe. And if you look at the photo of the office, they already have his name there. And I'm also comfortable naming the law library after Mr. Menace. So that's where I'm at. But I also want to thank Commissioner Justice. I thought that was a thoughtful committee that you assembled.
Commissioner Long.
Excuse me. I agree with what Commissioner Seal said, and I'd be happy to put that in a motion if that's what we need at the moment. But I also would like to see us adopt this group to consider the rest of the do we need to do that if we take up both of your suggestions? I don't know.
Then you wouldn't
Maybe
need
not. Oh, Barry is shaking his head. No, okay, so forget I said
What
that.
was your question? I'm sorry.
I didn't have a question. I was agreeing with Commissioner Seal.
Okay. Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think that was kind of where the line was for a lot of us as far as comfort level was as far as the entire complex versus an appropriate portion of the complex. But something that, as we're moving forward, what is a request simply someone sending an email saying, hey, I think it'd be a great idea if you name this too? Is that a request that we would have to respond to in some way, shape, or form to either reject out of hand in a commission meeting or appoint a subcommittee? Because this obviously had a lot more publicity than some of our past ones, but people pile on. You know who else would be great? Would be this, Judge Jagger or Public Defender Jagger would be great. And then we had Mr. Menace's name suggested after the original suggestion by the speaker. So what is the suggestion if someone just sends, because I do think because this has received a lot of publicity, we are going to get more suggestions as the days go along.
What your policy currently says, and I am reading from the one that's under the 2006 resolution, it states right up front under honorary naming rights, any nomination for honorary naming rights shall be considered as provided in this subsection. And I think that even staff has had a little confusion trying to find the right resolution to look at. So maybe this is an opportunity to put some more parameters into what would constitute a nomination. Like you said, is it just any person? And, these days we're even having viewers from outside Pinellas County. So somebody from outside the state, you might want to put some parameters in here as to what might constitute a nomination, because you're right. I think that, during my time with the county, which has been a long time now, I feel like these requests are becoming more frequent, notwithstanding, this one that has received some media attention, but I do feel like they have become more common. So maybe now would be a good time to take a look at your policy and refresh it. And, does somebody need to be deceased 5 years? Maybe you want a different time. Maybe you're satisfied with that. But now might be a good time, maybe once you settle on the requests that are in front of you, to take a look at this and maybe put some parameters around it, because you raise a very good point. We could get a nomination really under this policy from anybody in any form. And it does say it shall be considered.
Commissioner Gerard.
I thought I was, just to clarify, the minutes request came in well before all of this. Several months, we just didn't take it up. At least 6 months ago.
I don't remember seeing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't remember seeing it either.
Didn't have quite as many people talking about it, but it did come in quite a while ago.
Mr. Chair, point of order, there was a motion on the floor. Did someone make a second on that motion?
Well, we're not gonna make any motions in second. I think we'll just get a consensus, because we'll take this up on Tuesday at a commission meeting where we can get public comment.
Okay,
and-
just asking because Commissioner Long made a
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah, well, I said if it's appropriate at this time, and he
Yeah.
never responded, so
Yeah.
that's all
I
right, no
apologize.
worries.
No, well, we just don't take votes here at workshops, so. Yes, did you have anything else, Commissioner Gerard?
Yeah, I did. I would just like to see us, can we just take up the policy next week? Talk about the policy and, or give some suggestions that you can bring back and vote on the policy, and then decide whether we want to go any farther, because I do think the 5-year limit is a good idea. We're dealing with this now because we've been requested multiple times, but there's a reason why that was voted on in the first place, and I think that clears up a lot of that. Why don't you name this? Why don't you name this? And also that we have part of the policy being that we need to decide that we want to take that up. That we take a vote and say, okay, we're going to consider this, and we'll either put that on the agenda or we'll assign a committee. Not that automatically we consider every suggestion that comes in, but that's a decision of the county commission.
Commissioner Seal, and then Mr. Peters.
Two things. Just as a point of history, the 5 years came into play because some of us didn't want to respond to the emotions of the moment. And the other was, and not that this would be the case, but if there was any kind of scandal that would come about, then that 5-year period at least seemed like a reasonable period of time to wait. So just to offer that as a point of history, if I'm your historian here. And the second is a question. And I thought at the last meeting when we discussed it, they said I had mentioned having like a Hall of Fame where everybody's picture was in the courthouse. Did you tell me that that's already there? No? So that's something else I would like to consider, so that we then honor all of the people who have been either a public defender or a state attorney. As I mentioned, they do that in the supervisor of elections main office, where they have a picture of each supervisor of election and a little bit of history about them and when they served. And I think it's an appropriate and a nice thing to do.
I think that's a great idea.
Commissioner Peters?
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I didn't know about the minutes request either, and so I think, with this particular one with Mr. McCabe, it came in as a kind of a very formal request with letters supporting it and stuff like that. So, I think if we just get a random phone call that, oh, why don't you do this? I don't know if that's a formal request. And I don't know if the email is really a formal request. If you get an email, I would consider it a request. I don't know. Where we got a very specific memo, it was very professionally done. Not saying that the minutes one wasn't, because I only saw the one that I got recently. So I think there should be some kind of parameters in the policy, Jewel, if you look at recommendations that, what does it mean? Is it just somebody saying in a conversation, oh, I think it should be, or should it be something in writing, maybe with some support from the community, like Speaker Sprouls has done in this case, where he's gotten bipartisan support, and he had a lot of letters in support for it. So when we're talking about policy, I would like to see that kind of included, so it's more defined. But I agree with Commissioner Gerard that, we should make this decision on this. The request was to put it on his name, and I really liked where you were last meeting, where you were really thinking, kind of both the Dillinger and McCabe, they do amazing things, and I understand, and I'm trying to get the citizen report stuff in here, and it's not downloading, so we can't get those letters. We're getting an error. So if we can get that fixed so we can all read that would be helpful, so we can read who is supporting it and why. Because we had some compelling phone calls last time we discussed this, and some of them made comments that I wasn't even aware of, and I can't pull them up to even read them if they put them in writing for us. So I would like that fixed. But, every single thing that goes through that office has to go through the state attorney's office. Every single thing. It's not just prosecution, it's everything has to go through there. And I thought the arguments that came in on the phone were very compelling for us to really take this request a little more seriously, other than just pushing it aside and saying, no, let's just do an office. I think we ought to really vet out why we're either disagreeing with the request or not. But I hate to just dismiss it and make it an office when we had phone calls that really were compelling. We had phone calls that were compelling for Mr. Minnis, and we had phone calls and speakers that were very compelling for Mr. McCabe. And in the community, I've heard more conversations about Mr. McCabe that I didn't know anything about. And so I would really like to see to really address the issue about the building comprehensively versus, oh, I just want a different, easier way out. I did like your recommendation, Commissioner Gerard, last week when you suggested both their names. I know Mr. Dillinger isn't pushing for anything like that, but that's kind of my thoughts on it. I really think that we ought to take the request seriously and address the request. Thank you.
Commissioner Gerard?
Yeah, I've kind of changed my mind about that, naming the whole building, because of the phone calls and emails that I've been getting about the idea that justice is both sides of that equation, and that it's a justice center, it's not just a prosecution center, and that people walking into that building expect full involvement in the justice system. And I've had judges say that they named it that very specifically. Because they didn't want to, give anybody the impression that when they walk in that there wasn't going to be fair and balanced, if you will, treatment. So, that's pretty compelling to me. I hadn't even thought of that before we started talking about this whole issue, but that is certainly a consideration. I don't want anybody to ever walk into that building thinking that, Bernie McCabe, the state attorney, was the be-all, end-all. He was a wonderful guy, and, I really enjoyed him. But the scales of justice go both ways. And that just speaks a lot to me, some of the arguments that people were saying.
I mean, the idea was McCabe, Jagger.
Yeah, but
McCabe,
now, yeah,
yeah,
right.
or
Right.
Dillinger, whatever. I mean, that was both names Justice Center versus just one name Justice Center. Or no names, that was,
Yeah, but of course, Mr. Jagger was there way longer than Mr. Dillinger, and Mr. Dillinger would have a fit. Anyway, it's just the kind of guy he is, if he knew we were even arguing in that direction, I think he'd be over there talking about it to us right now.
did I read something about Mr. Jaggard was the first defense?
We just, yeah,
Yeah,
we just got an email about that.
the first one in the country. Did I read that, or
Is that right?
did I just
Can't be. In the
dream
county, at
that?
least.
Who knows? I mean, but,
Anyway.
so anyway, so to Commissioner Peters, that's what that was what you were referring to from the last meeting, and then Commissioner Gerard, you're saying that you're more comfortable with a different approach to it. So again, I think we've talked this conversation through. We have on the agenda, we'll go through that in a minute, but on the agenda for Tuesday, we have this discussion point, and it can be about changing the policy and making a motion and second and getting a change or confirmation of the policy that's in place. And then we can, I'm getting a sense here that we don't necessarily want to form a committee on this, that we're going to make the decision. And then, so we can make that decision, and then we just have to decide whether we want to consider taking action at this point on these two requests and what kind of action we want to take. And that discussion will happen on Tuesday, where we can actually take public comment, where we will take public comment, but we'll also either take action or defer action, depending on further discussion by the commission. Okay? So first up will be the conversation about policy, and if we want to get into that, and if we confirm that no, we don't want to, then that'll take that off the board, and then we'll get into the remaining items that we just talked about. Somebody could direct us through that, that would be helpful, and then we'll just kind of make our decisions at that meeting on Tuesday. Yes, Commissioner Justice.
Just a quick question, and I think we are spending time in conversation and deliberation on this. I don't think that we're bypassing it. I think that we're giving it pretty heady conversation for the time that we're spending. I did have one quick question of county facility. Is any county facility, do we have that defined in there in our policy? Because I think about roads and county roads and what ability we have to name roads. And I know the legislature names our roads every year. So I was curious about those policies, as how roads fit into our facilities.
I would want to do a little bit more research on that. I'm certainly not the pro in our office on roads, but there's a lot of ownership and control issues of roads out there. For instance, we've got the federal roads and state roads, and so that I'd want to do a little bit more research on that to be able to answer that question. It doesn't appear to me from your policy that, county facility is necessarily, is defined. So maybe that's a discussion point that we could have as to what, maybe would be eligible for naming, because certainly you've got parks and buildings and other things. But let me get back to you on roads, because that's one I'd want to have someone look into a little bit more.
And I know a couple years ago, we were asked for, it wasn't really approval, but agreement or non-rejection or whatever, when Pinellas Park took the lead on naming Park Boulevard after Congressman Young as a secondary name through that. And we did name, I believe, part of Keystone.
The bridge.
Or Oldsmar, the Oldsmar Bridge there. And I know that there's deliberations now in Tallahassee about naming a portion of Eastlake Road after our deputy. And so it'd be interesting to know. And we've talked about naming policies at universities and all the others. And certainly St. Pete College was different than the universities. Their policies are very different. St. Pete College was very prolific about recognizing legislative leadership. Is that the best way of saying it? So there's a lot of different policies to consider as we talk about our policy.
Under this policy, you do have a section that defines it under 2F. But we can look at the issue of roads, and if we have policies or anything, we'll certainly send those to you.
Yeah, I think you're right on this. Like the state road, there's State Road 60 was also named, I think, something to do with Purple Heart Highway or something. So it was kind of an overlay, but that's a state road.
275 has, I think, 6 names on it. So.
Yeah. Just what Commissioner Seal likes is, a road that has multiple names. So, yes, Commissioner Long.
Yeah, and to Commissioner Justice's point, I do remember when Commissioner Aroni brought that up about naming the part of the road that goes out across the bridge on the west end of 102nd. And every time I go over that bridge, I think of Congressman Young, because there's a nice sign right there that reminds everybody that that's the Congressman C.W. Bill Young's section of the road.
But in that case, that is a city road, that Pinellas Park.
It's county road, isn't it?
It
Or is
goes
it
through
county?
multiple cities and unincorporated.
Okay. So that's why they were asking us for kind of okay. Okay, anything else? So we'll have this similar discussion, a little more pointed perhaps on Tuesday at our meeting, okay? Thank you for wading through that. It's important that we have that conversation, so. Okay. Barry, anything else before we get into our agenda briefing that you wanted to bring up today?
Just a couple things. As you're well aware, we're seeing a lot more vaccine sites come online either through pharmacies and other state-run sites or even a federal site over in Tampa. The one issue that we're seeing as we are getting through our age 65 and older is that people register and then they go and they find a vaccine through a different distribution channel. So when we're sending out and saying, hey, here's 20,000 appointments, we're only getting about 4,000 or 5,000 people responding. And so now I have appointments that were almost going unfilled. So we started overbooking and trying to do that. So we're going to change the vaccine distribution system up for us, and that it's going to be a continuous open appointment. So register and look for an appointment. And then as we get more appointments, we'll add those, and you can actually go to where they're now able to schedule 2 weeks out. And so we can put more opportunities out there. And so people register, find an appointment, and book it. And so we've been challenged with that, and because there's so many different channels to receive a vaccine, we also don't want vaccine appointments going unused, which was a challenge last week. We're full right now, but that's by opening it up was a way we were able to fill those.
Okay, and just again, the conversation that we've had before, the commission's been concerned, staff's concerned about it, just talking about it again. The first group that we've talked about is 65 and over, which includes a lot of folks in the 80s and 90s that may not have access to all this. We got a nice letter from some folks in Safety Harbor about trying to pick up on what Dr. Cho said about reaching out and helping folks learn how to do that. Because I would argue that there's an unmet need, but if you could speak to that a little bit, that would be great.
I completely agree with that. There are people that do not have a vaccine and haven't been able to find an appointment, and any group that we can work with. So we reached out to the libraries, and we're going to be putting a training session on for libraries about how to navigate different systems. Where we have the health equity group. They're training up 15 community navigators to help people navigate and figure out how to find an appointment and schedule those. We've promoted Help Your Neighbor, and helping somebody that may not be as tech savvy be able to figure out how to navigate, register, and get an appointment. So we're going to continue to push all those. And so we do have, as staff is looking at the different requests, like the Maddie Williams request, and see what we can do to help again, expand those opportunities. So it's really now a connection issue. And I completely agree that there's a lot of people that do not have a vaccine, and we have appointments available, and now we got to connect them.
I would imagine that there are a greater number of folks that have utilities that they pay than they have emails as the older folks. So are we making any concentrated efforts with our city partners and our own utility folks reaching out in utility bills, like somebody just says vaccine, and then give a couple points about helping them navigate a system that is just foreign to them, frankly? A lot of folks, not everybody, but any thoughts on that?
It's something we can take back in staff. Obviously, what I would have mailed out last week is different than this week in terms of the way we're even navigating.
I know, but they don't know about it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just supposing that they don't know about it. I don't have any recorded data because we don't know what we don't know.
And that's one of by having multiple systems, I don't know out of the 170,000 people we have registered on our site, how many of them went to Publix or Walmart or to a different county. And actually, receive their shot.
Well, that was my comment the other day. My question the other day was, the numbers that we're recording, are they the ones that are there people that are getting vaccinated, number one, or are they people, Pinellas County residents that are getting vaccinated, because that includes people from they went to other counties to get vaccines?
Yeah, and we know that. We know how many of our residents, because it all goes into one database. Probably the biggest connection we have is with the VA. The VA is not in that same database, and so anybody that is going through the VA and getting shots, we're trying to make that connection to where we can get numbers back on that. So we vaccinated, I think Barbara had in her I think about 140,000, but there's more than that probably through the VA that we don't have and haven't incorporated into that number.
Yeah.
But that includes people, healthcare workers, not just the over 65. That's other workers that are eligible under the governor's, criteria.
Yeah.
But that's one of the changes. We're going to continue to work on these navigation issues. The team is working daily on trying to figure out how to make better connections for people.
I mean, every age group probably will have their own challenge, but the communication age for this age group is is perhaps more unique. Although I'm sure there's some areas that, don't have access to the information also. But I'm thinking more about the older folks in the 65 plus category.
And we did, and you saw in the report, we did several 65 and older communities.
Right.
We still have the health equity group that is to outreach through churches and others.
Okay.
So we're trying to chip away and continue to provide those. Those are capacity issues. As I said, last week, we're at a capacity now. We know we can do 20,000 shots. First and second, or any combination. That's about the capacity, and that's the reason it's so important for the pharmacies and others to come online to increase that capacity as we get the Johnson & Johnson, on, that we have more shot capacity to get people through. And I'm sure you're going to see, just like the governor did with teachers and police, that you're going to see some of that open up over time as some of these age groups we get to that penetration point, that you've got enough. We know that we're getting, you're getting 50, 60% is a good number of people willing to take the shot. And so, when you look at 250,000 of 65 and older, 250,000 aren't going to get it. And so.
Right. There'll be some, but again, I think just consider that in your group on utilities. Commissioner Seal, you had a question?
Yes, would you advise us when the 15 navigators are up and running, as well as the libraries, so that we can let the citizens know who contact us?
We certainly will.
Okay.
Lourdes, anything you want to add to that?
And then the other thing is, I know of 2 instances where I had heard that everybody in the portal had been contacted, and there's 2 instances where I know that they did not get a code or a contact. So I don't know, now that you're going to, when will the continuous start?
It's starting right now.
Right now? Okay.
Yes.
I'll let them know.
Lourdes Benedict, Assistant County Administrator. You'll want to make sure that it's the CDR McGuire registration, because we've had that at our office. I know we've gotten some from your offices, and when we check in, it's a whole different registration. It's not CDR, is what we're finding.
Yep.
So we're walking people through it. We've only had a couple, but keep sending them. We can handle it. So we can keep doing those. As far as the library, we're doing the training next week.
Okay.
So we will put it out on our website, social media, et cetera, that folks can then go to the library. Libraries have really stepped up, so we're looking forward to that. As far as the 50 navigators that the Foundation for Healthy St. Pete is funding, they are having their meeting today. They've hired part of those navigators, and it's going to be a couple of weeks. I mean, it's not next week, so
Okay.
I don't want to give that impression. And we will also be training them.
Great. Thank you.
So you also, Barbara's sending me text here, like, remember to add, but we have a call-in number. And so as we open it up, before people would have to call in and get registered, but then making the connection to an appointment, well, now if you call in and get registered and there's an appointment available, then they can put them into that appointment. So some of these, by opening it up, it actually creates that opportunity for people to call in and make that connection. She's promoting that out through community papers, on our TV, and in all the different channels that she communicates with.
And there was a little confusion with some folks when they would get online to register or whatever. There was a notification that it was full, so people would kind of just leave the site without registering. That been taken care of?
Yes, and the reason for that is because if you did not receive an invite and you had just registered, when you go in there, it is going to say that we're full because we sent out invites for the
Right.
people. But what'll happen next week, as Barry talked about, is just going to be open, right? So when the appointments get filled in the next 2 weeks, then they're filled. So you're not going to get an invite.
But it also doesn't require at 3 o'clock,
No.
everybody rushes in.
They're not going to get an invite because everybody has been invited.
Yes.
That's correct.
That's why
Yes,
we're not
that's what
doing.
happened this week. We sent out triple
Okay.
the appointments we
Okay.
had.
But that's why
to
we're not
fill
going to be
them.
doing, there's no more invites to the 65 and overs because we've sent that out already.
Yes.
Okay. Now, it's an expanding group. The governor's come up with an expanding group. That's,
Those are closed pods, and
Oh, those are-
they'll be working those
but not through
separately.
us, not through our system.
They'll be closed pods. They're not going to be coming into our 2 pods that we have,
Got it.
that you all are aware of, the 2 sites for next week. And it's going to be Johnson & Johnson, and it's a different, it's not going to come out of our inventory.
Okay, okay.
And I just wanted to add, if I can, Barry,
Go ahead.
because we just got it hot off the press. So in Pinellas, we have 245,581 individuals that are 65 plus. So that's 25% of our population. 49% of our 65 plus have been vaccinated. It blows. These numbers are way more than any other county. So I know, sometimes it's frustrating to hear people can't get in. What else are we doing? I just want to really congratulate the whole team for getting this done because no other county is close to what we're doing
Yeah,
here.
and-
So I just wanted to share
Yeah,
that.
and I want to, and thank you for the staff being flexible to change on the move, because in the beginning, things weren't so good, and you guys listened, and we're working on it on your own, but it's much better today than it was a month ago. And so that, really appreciate that effort, appreciate staff. You guys go back, you think through things, and work with our group that does all the scheduling. It's been much improved.
Yeah. They meet every single night and talk through, how to refine this. It's a work in progress. And as we've seen the state contracts come online, that changes the way we have to approach things. So that'll be constant throughout. But we'll continue to try to improve it. We'll continue to try to communicate the ways people can access and receive a vaccine. We also know that there are going to be people in these age groups that turn down getting a vaccine in the beginning, and they realize that people didn't get sick and everything's okay, and now they're going to want that. And so we're hoping that they'll come back, and we need to have a pathway for them to be able to access those vaccines also, and that'll change some of our numbers.
And do we have a track of that information as well? Like, we have 49% 65 and over have been vaccinated. Is there another 20% that have turned the vaccine down that we know about, so that we still have a bunch that we haven't even heard from, or
We
we're
really
still
wouldn't
working?
know that because they wouldn't register.
Okay, we
You
wouldn't
know.
know that, so it's
Well,
going to
I
be,
mean, we could see it like in the nursing homes when we were going
Right.
into the nursing homes.
Yeah, we have that.
We knew what the numbers there because you had a population group. But outside of that, it's really
so
hard
just have to
track.
make some assumptions on some percentages.
Yeah.
Commissioner Justice, you,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'll echo your praise of our staff through this entire year. It's only a year. It's only a year. As my Facebook memory reminded me this morning, that a year ago we were out at a social event and everything was semi-normal. And maybe I missed it when I stepped out for a second. What is our situation today if I have someone who fits the 65 and over category? Should they go on our site and register now?
Yes.
Or wait till next week?
Yes, we are pushing everyone. We want to continue the registrations. That's number one. And then again, next week, it'll just be open. So once you register, if there are still appointments available, and there will be 20,000 plus available next week, every week so far.
So they'll register today, and then that appointment open next week. That's where I guess I'm getting a block. So they register today, Thursday. They will,
Yeah, we're full this week.
we're full this week.
Just got full.
So they will get, if I register today, will I get a contact for?
No, you need to keep looking. So we're not doing the invites anymore. We're just opening it up because the invites, we had to triple, quadruple send out invites, and people weren't
Sure.
taking them. So we're just going to open them up because we don't have that cattle call problem anymore.
So if I register today and there's no appointments today,
Look again next week.
so the onus comes back on the individual to check again next week?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
that's where
our
I was trying
message.
to.
yeah, I'm glad you clarified that, because
Yeah.
I didn't have that down either. So you guys live with this. We're, so we're just trying to make sure we understand it so we can pass it on to folks. So,
And as far as the state site, they're still working on a location in North County. And the good news is they're going to use CDR McGuire, our same registration process. So that is really good news for our residents.
But that's going to be a few weeks. They were looking at a site. I just got word that that's fallen through, so they're looking at different sites. But they're looking in North County, and more information to come as that comes online.
That will be the same, you say it's CDR, but will it be a different?
It'll be run by the state.
It'll be run by the state, not us, but it's the same registration process.
So it'll look familiar to them when they have to fill it out a
Yes.
second time,
Yes.
potentially.
It's very good for our residents.
Okay.
Well, but,
go ahead.
but if they sign into ours, they register in ours, it's not going to transfer to the state site. They'll have to sign in on both, or register in both systems.
No, so they're not using the ShareCare, which is the state-run system for registration.
Right.
The Pinellas State site will be on CDR McGuire. So if you registered last week and a week from now that site opens, you'll go in there, and if it's still available, you'll go in there and be able to click that you want to go to that new site, you'll want to go to Pinellas
okay.
Central,
All right.
you can go to our Pinellas
So-
Park site.
So you only have to register once in
Yes.
CDR?
Yes.
Okay.
But again, just to go back one more time, I'm sorry. So people, we still want them to register, and you can, if you haven't registered on our site, register, please.
Yes.
At the same time, you can check to see if there's an availability. There isn't any this week.
Right,
But
we
people-
just booked every appointment just 20 minutes ago.
got you.
I got a message.
So people can still get on there to register, but this week, don't bother checking for appointments. But check back when next week.
Yeah, we'll check Saturday, Sunday,
For
Monday.
next week.
They're building the schedule as we speak for
Okay.
next week.
And that will start
For 2
on
weeks.
for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Okay, so Saturday, they can get back online. If you've registered, that's great. Just go on there and get an appointment for the following 2 weeks.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Just one more question, I think. So are we able to clear out those ones that we call them up and they've gotten it somewhere else? Are we able to go in and delete that or say they already got it or? whatever, or we just, are they
Yeah,
just hanging out there?
if they got it from us through the CDR McGuire, it's cleared, but if they got it from Publix, as of right now, it's not cleared.
So we can't even go in and clear
we
it
don't
if
know.
we find that out?
Yeah,
Oh, we don't know.
we don't know. Well, the only way you would know is to track back, because Publix has to put it into the state
Florida
first
Shot.
shot system. However, that system doesn't link to our system or any system, so there's no way to do a cross.
Bi-directional, it's just one way.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, though, if we had these navigators calling people up
flowers and then
or helping, then can they go into my record say, I've already gotten it somewhere, you don't need to call me every
I mean, they
week?
could, anybody, if
They
you're the
could.
person that owns that account, you could do that, but people just aren't doing it, so.
Well, I'm not talking about individuals, just the navigators to make it a little cleaner. I mean, otherwise, aren't you just calling them?
Well, so that's part of the
Over and
reason
over.
for not doing the contact is opening it up, and so we have a registration regardless of the numbers. It's up to them to then schedule that spot. And
Commissioner Flowers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The communication related to CVS, is that accurate that they will not be opening up in Pinellas County but in other counties?
Yes, that is correct as of a couple of days ago, right? It could change when I go back to my laptop. But CVS right now is not in Pinellas County. We've reached out to their corporate office. They've given us the process of how they're going to roll out, and we just aren't on there right now.
Okay. And you may already know or be thinking about this, but the federal government also announced that they are going to be implementing a navigator-type system for persons to go out and try to connect with individuals who've not yet had the vaccine. So maybe at some point, the operation that the Foundation for Healthy St. Pete will be setting up will somehow or another coordinate or communicate with that group so that they're not like going to the same door twice, which may not be a bad thing, but I just found that helpful but interesting that they're implementing that process. And do you see any issues or concerns? I know there was something in the paper the other day about Publix receiving almost like 1 in 4 of the vaccinations that'll be coming to different communities. Do you see that as an issue or concern with us receiving enough product to make sure that we have first and second shots for persons that are coming through to us on the supply side?
For those that are going to Publix or just in general?
Just in general, if Publix is receiving 1 in 4 of the vaccines, we have our new process that you're just telling us about that is a little easier, will be a little easier for people to, get on and not be all frustrated about not being able to get appointments. Knowing that some people are registering like in 2 and 3 different places, they're just trying to get the vaccine.
No, I'm feeling actually pretty confident, more than I was a couple weeks ago, because Johnson & Johnson just came on, and we're going to be getting some of those next week for our law enforcement, what Barry was talking about. So it's just more and more is flowing in.
Okay.
To go to your point, we need the Publix and
Yes.
the CVS's
Yes.
and the Walgreens to be giving shots. We have a capacity to do about 20,000. But the hospitals, all these other distribution channels, that chart that we had put up that first week, where we need all those channels in order to be able to where they can open up and say, now it's 50 and older, and now it's 40 and older, and now it's 30 and older, and get through our population group. Otherwise, at 20,000, we'd be here until next year trying to get the amount of vaccine that we need out. So all of that is needed for us to be able to open up these groups. My concern was that as we open up these groups, we have that capacity to be able to deliver and the vaccine available to deliver as they open those up, to where we don't have kind of the cattle call of 265,000 people and we're the only ones given the shot. We need it to be aligned.
And my last question is, I received a few calls because now that it's opened up and it says teachers, K through 12.
Age 50 and above.
Right. But the question I received, and maybe you have the answer and maybe not, or can get the answer. You still have, they're not teachers, but they're the cafeteria workers, maintenance people, so they're still in touch with other persons working for the school system, age 50 and up. So when they say teachers, they're just specifically talking about people standing in front of students teaching, or is that available to other persons who work within the public school system, K through 12?
Yeah, I know that
That would be support
I'm
personnel.
sorry, Dr. Cho has met with Dr. Greco, and they're working on those plans.
Okay.
So I don't want to tell you wrong, but
Okay.
it was my understanding, actually, it was anyone in contact with the children, so.
Okay, because there was Pastor Manuel Sykes Church will be a location for the 6th, and there were several people that were calling me asking the question about that, and I didn't have the answer, so thank you. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Long?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also, in all of the information you've given us this morning, Lourdes, and thank you for it, did you speak to the supply chain and how different it is today versus a couple weeks ago, for example?
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. I feel more confident. We're getting more, and now Johnson & Johnson is open, so we're going to be getting those next week. So that's why we feel pretty confident that we can do 2 weeks out. Before, it was a little scary,
Yeah.
right? We would book a week out, and we didn't know if we even had the vaccine yet. So we're feeling very good about the inventory.
Good. Excellent.
We just need more people, more providers, right? Pharmacies, doctors' offices to open up, because we're doing this as a stopgap until that's ready.
Correct.
Yeah,
Well-
and to that, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was
Commissioner
just going to say, well, it's hopeful. It looks like it little by little by little, it's kicking in and we're getting it done.
Long. And you know, I think it's to your point, and I think you gave us a report this week about where we are with funding, our funding for that, and what's eligible for FEMA reimbursement. So that's I think that would be informational for our residents to see at some point, not today, but maybe at one of our meetings coming up, just to give them a sense of why it's so important to get these other distribution channels open, because those are costs that are already in play. They're already
Right.
set up, their infrastructures. We're making an extra
We're doing it.
overtime request of people, and so it costs additional monies.
That's correct.
So
We'll get reimbursed, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
$1.7 million a week, and
Yeah, it's
1.4 of that is FEMA eligible.
Yeah.
But again, you know, last time, in the middle of our response, the FEMA rules on what was eligible reimbursed changed.
Yeah.
So we're going to watch that carefully as the
No,
new stimulus package comes online.
And it's a big deal, because we set aside some reserves this year, and for different reasons, and
Right.
some of that's going to be chipped away at,
Correct.
because some of that's not reimbursable.
That's correct.
And so we're going to have to keep a real close eye on that too. Commissioner Gerard?
As far as you know, there's no avenue other than the hospitals for medically vulnerable people.
Actually, there is.
Oh.
We just got that yesterday. Department of Health was waiting for their state guidance on that. We were hoping maybe it was at all the sites, but that's not the case. And it is not just a doctor's note, and we're going to have that on our website, the medically vulnerable form from the Department of Health. So a person needs to take that to their doctor. The doctor needs to complete that. Then they can go to any of the pharmacies that are participating in the vaccine distribution with that notice and get their shot.
Cool.
Hospitals are also doing some. They have very limited supplies. I think Baycare only has like 1,000 for the whole Baycare system.
Yeah, okay. And the second question is, how, in terms of testing, are we having as many, as we get more people vaccinated, or as
No.
many people still going and getting tested?
It's definitely decreased. We decreased what we're doing at Ruth Eckerd Hall. Now it's just Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And Tropicana, we've also decreased. It's anywhere from 700, 800. On Tuesdays, it's usually the highest. It's about 1,200 because we're closed on Sunday and Monday. But it's definitely decreased.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, it's that feeling of getting more shots, less testing, less wear and tear on our hospitals. Your feeling is we're at this point not is that things are going in the right direction and on all fronts, and we keep hoping that we make those monthly progress, right? So there's more vaccines, more shots in arms, less testing because people just don't have that demand, and we start. Well, anyway, hopefully the light at the end of the tunnel is the light at the end of the tunnel. That's what we're certainly hoping for.
Starting to get there.
Any other questions on this before? Yes, Commissioner.
Not a
Flowers.
question, just a comment. Metro services over off of 31st Street. They've now opened it up K through 12 school employees age 50 and up. So I guess they figured out what they were going to do with the vaccination. Law enforcement age 50 and up, firefighters age 50 and up. So thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Barry, before we get into the agenda?
That's all I have.
Okay, I just got a note also from Kim looking back and saying that the Minutes application, actually, the request came in December of 2020. I guess it was the early part of December. There seemed to be some confusion. It wasn't months and months ago, but it did come in December. So go ahead, Barry, with our agenda review.
Okay, so on our agenda, you have some presentations and awards. We go down under, then you have items from the Circuit Court and Comptroller, reports received for filing, and down under the first substantive item is under Administrative Services, item number 13. We'll start there. This is declaring surplus equipment-owned property for sale. Item 14 is delegated items, report of non-procurement items for me for the period ending February 19th. Item 15 is a joint project agreement with the City of Pinellas Park for an update to the Roosevelt Creek Watershed Management Plan, $356,000, cost shared between us and the city. Item 16 is the ranking of firms with Wade Trim for professional engineering services for the wastewater collection system. This is a significant contract, but this addresses the development of sanitary sewer overflow management plan in coordination with our capital improvement program, design criteria and specifications for projects needed to address inflow and infiltration, along with capacity improvements, analysis of financial impacts with an integrated multi-year rate study for years 24 through 27, private sewer lateral policy, and septic to sewer program. So this consultant will also be presenting when we talk about our lateral program coming up here in May. But that's the reason you see the price tag. But this is a significant issue to address some of our capacity issues throughout our system that are really regulatory compliance issues.
Under item 17, this is a notice of a new lawsuit. This arises from an accident resulting in personal injuries. I would note that the county's contractor that was doing work in this area will be defending the county in this lawsuit.
Item 18 is Housing Finance Authority. This is their annual report. And 19 is their annual report on the Housing Trust Fund program.
Barry, back to number 9 on the audit of building and development review services. Obviously, that was an independent audit of that department. Is that? I mean, I haven't had a chance to look through. I think it's like 58 pages or something. But
yeah,
is it separate? It's separate and distinct from what you've been doing for the last?
There's some overlap between the items, but many of which have been addressed. But we can certainly provide more of a detailed report on that prior to Tuesday.
Okay. Well, from my perspective, it's just getting that report from you about where we are and what we're doing and.
Well, we're chipping away. That's the reason we brought the regulatory changes to you last time. Yeah. But this is a combination of both. It's procedural changes that they see and a variety of things. I really can't sit here and give you like the top 3 or whatever, but it's a good second set of eyes. Looking at a really complex program, and so many of the things that we were designing for efficiencies are addressed, but I'm sure there's some that are not, but I couldn't speak specifically on that.
But we're incorporating the...
We absolutely are, and we welcomed the audit, because it again gives you thoughts to consider as you're trying to make changes to your process.
Okay. Less cumbersome, the better. I mean, we got
In a very cumbersome system.
Yeah, I know it is, but we got to do it right. But I mean, we've done some things apparently recently that we need to talk about off, just one-on-one, maybe a little bit more about the process and becoming a little more cumbersome. And I just want to make sure I understand that. So
Yeah, we can go through those. Again, some of those are, you're just seeing some of these things come online with some of the regulatory changes. We reorganized to bring on 3 project managers to where you have like single point accountability. That person will deal with one person, and all the other departments that they deal with will be back office. So you have single point person walking them through on complex cases and stuff. So as some of those items come on, I think you'll see some of these issues where people get caught between different departments be resolved. Those are the most difficult.
I'm thinking like site plan and building plans at the same time. I mean, we can multitask. We don't have to wait for one to be finished before the other one starts. It seems like I've been getting some notes from people that say it just elongates the time. We could be working on both at the same time, knowing that there's a risk that we'll take as a developer, that the site plan could make that building plan a problem. So that's why
it could.
So I just want to make sure that those options are still available.
Yeah, we can talk through that.
Okay, thank you.
Item 20 is your naming rights policy, as we discussed. Item 21 is accounts receivable write-off. This is for $12,000. It's delegated if it's up to $10,000. These are non-collectibles. Item 22 is a First Amendment to a joiner and interlocal agreement for issuance not to exceed $1.2 million for industrial development revenue bonds. This is a waste company that would be issuing these for that are buying new trucks. Item number 23 is an amendment to the healthcare for homeless co-application. So as part of required documentation, they're going to be coming in March 9th through 12th. We noticed some updates in governance documents that needed to be updated. They hadn't been updated since 2015 and 17 to comply. So this makes changes to the structures as required. Item number 24 is an interlocal agreement with the City of Dunedin for the purchase of the Gladys Douglas property. So as you're aware, the purchase price was $10 million. The city provided $2 million. The county provided $3.5 million with the anticipation of receiving at least $1.5 million from the Florida Community Trust Grant. And then $4.5 million was obtained through donations raised in partnership with local nonprofit entities. I think we've, and so again, it's a city purchase. This is an intergovernmental agreement that effectuate that and also puts the terms in terms of maintenance and all the different things to manage the property going forward. Item number 25 is the First Amendment to an agreement with Born Tech Solutions. This is our Oracle Enterprise Resource Planning System. So it increases the contract by just over $1 million, and it breaks down the items within your packet. And now you got appointments. Item 26 is an appointment to the Worknest Pinellas Career Source Board. That's commissioners as a whole. 27 is an appointment to the Emergency Medical Services Advisory Council. You have, they're listed within here.
Under item number 28, this is a request for the board to approve the county attorney filing litigation as set forth there. This relates to ambulance transports and the proposed defendant there basically paying random amounts and not the amounts that they're being billed for. Over time, it will begin to be a significant amount of money. It's been over at least a calendar year, about $100,000. So we're going to go ahead and file suit and try to get this situation rectified. Under 29, again, this is the placeholder that we have there to talk about redistricting. To the extent that we have any update to offer, we will do that on Tuesday. If I could, as long as I have you all here, I just did want to bring to your attention, I did send out a memo yesterday. Hopefully you all have had a chance to read it about the canvassing board. It is never too early to think about elections. Really, my goal in sending that out to all of you was to focus on the 2022 general election, as I understand that there are campaigns being started and requests for endorsements. So again, that was just some general information. If anybody has questions, please contact me.
Item 31 is appointment to the County Council of Persons with Disability by Commissioner Peters. Item 32 is a reappointment to the Historic Preservation Board for the Commissioners as a whole. We have one public hearing. Item 34 is a countywide map amendment from public, semi-public to office on 7.39 acres. This is St. Petersburg College property, and they don't need this property that's currently used for their administrative offices, and they want to put this on the open market, and so they want to make this change prior to doing that. And clarification, the last item is Lourdes said that the executive order for school personnel, it's all school personnel 50 and over, not just teachers.
Yeah. And on Monday, or Tuesday, excuse me, I'm on the canvassing board, so Charlie will take the Countywide Planning Authority meeting at 6 o'clock. I'll be here probably. We have to be there by 5, as you know, so should be here the whole time. Except the night meeting. Any other comments, thoughts? Yes, Commissioner Seal.
I got an email from Terry Haas with CNCN, and at the forum that I'll be attending via Zoom, he wanted to advise us that one of the questions was going to be about traffic volume. Jewel, this question is for you. And for the proposed apartment complex at US 19 and Keystone Road. And I was wondering if that was quasi-judicial for the county going forwards, because it would affect whether we could comment about that at the CNCN meeting. So I don't need to know now. I just wanted to figured you all might hear about the same thing, and if we can get an answer back, that would be great.
Better than worrying about it on our, when we're about to sign up for the meeting that night, right? So yeah, thank you for getting that information for us. Yeah, Commissioner Flowers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a chance to have a meeting with the ABC group, individuals that live out towards the beaches, and they have a couple of issues. They may have been taken up here before, I'm not sure. One was derelict boats. And the other was requesting support for an increase in toll passes in order to try to help with some of the upkeep and whatnot, excuse me, along the corridor going in front of Eckerd College and going through the toll and going over the Hump Bridge. So they requested for us to consider supporting them in legislation that would address persons who just kind of let their boats go and they end up kind of sitting out there in the water. So I wasn't sure if that is something that we've taken up here before, if that is something that anyone is interested in looking at or addressing throughout the beach communities, and if we wanted to have a statement or comment. They did say, they didn't tell me everything, but they did tell me they had spoken with Commissioner Peters before in the past. I know that this was an issue in St. Pete. They had boats that had been sitting in the Coquina Key little area, and it took a while, but they were finally able to do something about it because people just kind of abandoned them. So I told them I would certainly share it with my colleagues to see if there was any interest. I'm happy to provide you with information that they provided me with. Commissioner Peters may have something she would like to share as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and you'd have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Senator Brandes has legislation to allow for that tax increase at the toll. And they've been asking for this for years and years and years. And I don't know that they've come to the county before, but they've been very frustrated that this is the city of St. Petersburg proper. It's not the county. And St. Petersburg is supposed to maintain that median area, and they just, first it was DOT that was doing it, and then they were contracting with St. Petersburg, and they just don't feel that they've done a quality job. And so they were wondering if we would write a letter of support for Senator Brandes's bill that would allow for that money, and they've done it in other counties and other areas before around the state. So this isn't something that hasn't been done before. It's not new. And that would increase the toll on the Bayway, and that money would go into a trust, and that money in the trust would then go towards the beautification of that area of the Bayway. And it would strictly be the Bayway. It wouldn't go into the communities or in the neighborhoods. It would strictly be the Bayway. And that could be any kind of maintenance, the streetlight maintenance over at Eckerd College that we got put in. It would be strictly for that. And so they're hoping that that bill will pass, and that if we write a letter of support, that would be helpful to each chairman of the committees that that bill would go through. And we certainly could, I can have Ashley ask his staff what committees they are, but
What kind of increase are we, what's the fee and what's the increase?
I wish I do.
It's up, it'll be making the past $50 instead of the $30 that it is now.
I didn't think it was that high.
Yeah, 50, because I asked the persons that I was on the phone with, I would just wanted to make sure that they had spoken to their constituencies in that area as well, because it will only be for the pass. It's not for persons that go through like for
Right.
just recreation, but it's only for persons who purchase the pass, the monthly pass to go through.
Which
And I
are
just want to give a
residents.
point of correction, if I may, Commissioner Peters. The DOT was only paying the city of St. Petersburg $10,000 for the upkeep of that area. It was costing them over $110,000 for the upkeep of the area. And so the city was saying, we can't continue to do it at this rate. We would like for some additional help to do it. And so this was a mutual conversation about how could we generate the money, which you have to give them kudos. They came up with an idea, and then it's being supported so that they can continue. It's a beautiful, you all pass through there, it's a beautiful area, and they just want to keep it up. And I believe they are applying for a beautification corridor application, and part of that says you have to maintain your area. So again, it's your pleasure. I'm thankful, Commissioner Peters, for expanding on that conversation. It was new to me, but I just wanted to bring it forward to see.
And the vessels are becoming really problematic. There's, after ETA, the number of sailboats along the Tom Stewart Causeway, the number of along the VA over there, the Bay Pines. I mean, the amount of derelict boats in the Intercoastal Way are it's unbelievable, the number of them, especially after ETA. And I don't know that we're really doing much about that, and, you know, what we're able to do about that. And I don't even think the sheriff, for the people that are mooring there, they're not supposed to stay in one place for a long period of time. They're supposed to move around. And we have no idea how they're disposing of the waste on their boats, and they're not moving around. And I think that's an area that we have just not put a lot of energy into, and I would like to see us put a little more energy into it than we have.
So on the, so first, we're addressing both of those. We're trying to, okay? But, so for instance, on the derelict boats, that was a funding issue, correct, Jill? And so so first off, there's very specific notification requirements. Just because it's abandoned doesn't mean we can go out and take it. There's notification requirements and things like that that are pretty onerous. And so it takes time to go through that process. And then the other piece was underfunding to be able to remove them. I believe that's been addressed, but I'd defer to Jill because I know they've been working on that. Kelly's been working on that for some time.
Yeah, the
and I
only
wanna-
distinction I would add is that we also have the difference between the state-owned bottomlands versus the other locations. And so all the regulatory and enforcement provisions, though, are statutory. They come from the state. And that's how we have to follow those regulations, as Barry was saying. But if it's state bottomlands, we can't necessarily intervene. And that's what we're trying to work on with the local municipalities.
And so the second issue, Brian Loack's actually been working on with us. For instance, Madeira Beach brought this forward because each, what's it called? Yeah, the liveaboards. And you're exactly right. How do you know that they disposed of their waste? And so we're trying to work with them on what could be a model ordinance. We can only regulate the unincorporated areas, but like down at Madeira Beach, it's Madeira Beach, and then it's unincorporated, then it's St. Petersburg, you know, and so, you know, trying to have like a model ordinance or to that effect that everybody could come together on. But those are some of the issues. Are you going to require certification? Well, then we got to get the police agencies involved because they've got to agree that they're going to check these, requirements and things like that. But that is a group that has had discussions. It actually was going full board until the pandemic hit, and I don't believe they've met. They've discussed it, but they haven't met since then.
So if it's okay, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure, do we have any official mooring fields in Pinellas County?
Do you know the answer to that?
No.
I'd have
I
to
know
get
they
Kelly.
were doing it, but I thought they stopped. So I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that.
I know Gulfport was trying to do it, but then there were some problems, and I thought they abandoned the idea, so I'm not sure. But over by the Bay Pines area, that has become a huge mooring field. I mean, it is huge, the number of boats that are moored there, as though it's an official mooring field. And I don't believe the sheriff goes in there and tells, you guys have been here a month, you got to move, you can't, and how are you disposing of your waste? But when they are there for 6 months or a year or 2 years, some of them I think have been there 3 years, they are not, I'm relatively certain that that's not within the guidelines and that they should be moving around, and however they're disposing their waste certainly should be appropriate, but we're not, I don't believe that we're doing anything about it. So I appreciate that we are, but if we don't have any real official mooring fields, why are we allowing them to be created unofficially? And so, that's something else I would really like to look into.
Okay. Brian's watching right now, but it's an area, the beach communities brought it up.
Yeah.
We started to engage on it. We're happy to continue to engage to try to get consistency on this.
I know once Publix went in there and there was access to, easy access for them to take a dinghy and get food and do things like that, it just became, a perfect location for boats to do that. But as long as it's not an official mooring field where there's regulations and you're making sure that the waste is taken care of and you're following the statutes, then right now we're facilitating it with that because we're not preventing it. So that's just my comments and thoughts. So it is a big issue, and I appreciate that you guys are looking into it. And I'll have Ashley look into what bill that is and what the details are on the increase of the pass so that you guys can consider it and we can talk about it.
It looks like via text, Jill has more information from our
Yes,
staff.
I have from Brian as well as Kelly. So it's great that they're watching this. So the only mooring fields here in Pinellas County are actually in cities. There is one in Gulfport, and there is one in St. Petersburg. And apparently, hang on, I got to change user here. And the one in Gulfport, we helped fund through the BP settlement. Some of you, Commissioner Justice nodding, and the one in city of St. Petersburg is near the marina. So there are currently 2, but they're not in unincorporated areas.
Commissioner Long, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Commissioner Peters and Commissioner Flowers, for bringing this forward for more discussion. This has been an issue for a long, long time, not only for the county commission, but way back when actually I was in the legislature. And frankly, I'm not exactly sure, and maybe this is something that can be examined by our staff, why the Coast Guard and the Sheriff's Marine Patrol has not taken more action, number one and number two. And number three, I would like to have a more in-depth discussion of how we move forward rather than just arbitrarily, rushing off to the state to see what they can do on the issue, considering the fact that the issues transcend several municipal boundaries, and it would seem to me that between the beach communities and Madeira Beach and the county, we ought to be able to come up with some level of response that's a little more focused than the one that we've been getting, because as it relates to the mooring, I'm calling it a mooring field because I don't know what else to call it. For as long as I have lived in Pinellas County, there have been boats in that little, it's like a harbor that butts up to Bay Pines Marina. And I can tell you that several of those boats, in fact, many of them over the years, are actually abandoned. And what do you do with those? Do you know? So there's quite a few issues here in this one discussion, which I think begs for a more thoughtful policy decision about how deep into the weeds we want to get with who regulates what. Because it's the same type of situation we have at Johns Pass, Barry, in terms of all these different jurisdictional governmental agencies that have to weigh in, right?
We agree.
I love it. I love it.
Commissioner Justice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And going full circle, yeah, the Gulfport mooring for we did fund $100,000 out of the BP funds when we had those monies. But the Fish and Wildlife Commission, I assume that's who we'll work through. They have a grant program, they have a process, they have a definition of what a derelict vessel is. If you designated a derelict, then you have to look for the owner, you have to give them an opportunity to challenge whether it's derelict, and then you can apply for a grant. And a couple years ago, the program had $1 million in it for giving money to local governments to pay for removal of these vessels. So there's opportunities out there. And I guess the interesting thing about if it's costing the city of St. Pete $100,000 to do it, but they signed a contract for $10,000, that's a interesting decision that was made somewhere along the way.
Yeah, that's just the numbers they gave me. I have the bill numbers, I'm not sure, HB 639 and Senate Bill 1086. HB 639 and Senate Bill 1086.
I mean, I think getting caught up to speed on what latitude we have directly. I think we have very little with these abandoned boats.
On the
so,
abandoned boats, it's a statutory process.
Yeah.
I can have Kelly come in and we, kind of walk through that. They have been trying to speed that process up, but again, as Jill said, it
takes forever.
It does.
Yeah.
Part of it was funding, but part of it is the process of notification, giving them opportunities to appeal, and whether it's derelict or not, and those things take time.
Sometimes they get in the courts. I know there was a boat up near Ozona that we had forever trying to deal with that issue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, before we could even begin to take action, forget about who's funding it. I mean, we just trying to get action to be able to do something. Mm-hmm. This funding that you're talking about, is that for this kind of thing too, or is that just for the beautification?
In my notes, it said I have landscaping along the Pinellas Bayway, working with DOT. Senator Brandeis introduced the bill. It is a state road. St. Pete Resources paid to take care of the Bayway. The state reimbursement is $10,000. The city's been spending $100,000, not asking for them to make up the difference, but now the city of St. Pete's budget is tight, unable to continue. Brandeis suggests to increase the annual pass $50 to $60. Representative Cheney is doing the companion bill in the House. So it's just for that. I did ask them if they could tell me if it was 50, what dollar value does that look like? If it's 60, what dollar value does that look like?
And I'm assuming there is the resident support?
Yes, because that's what made me ask them if the residents supported, because $50 to $60 increase for a pass, some people may be not happy with that, may not be happy with that, but they stated, I can only go on what they said, that they had support. So they asked for the letter of support in those regards, and that's the House bill and the Senate bill.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anything else? Barry? Nothing? All done? All right. Yep.
Would you be willing to send that letter of support?
Well, I guess that's a great question. Yes.
I think there's more work to be done in terms of how this affects our citizens. I mean, there's a lot of people in this county right now that are having a really tough time. And I'd be very sensitive to that. To me, Commissioner Flowers, that's a pretty considerable increase in the fee. I don't know how many people are going back and forth, but it's a pretty popular
It's
route.
only for people with the pass, not if you're just going for recreation. It's the same amount,
Right,
like if I go out, but it's only for people with the pass. I agree with you, though. We should get more information. That's why I was bringing it forward.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm a little bit concerned only because of the increase. I mean, if somebody tells me from the senator's office, yeah, we've got support for it, what does that mean? I have no idea what that means.
Right. That's why I said I'm just giving you all the information I have.
Commissioner Peters?
So that is the Bayway Association, and I'm happy to contact the Terra Verde Association and get back with you. And it's a $10 fee per year increase, so it's $10 a
I thought
year.
it was 20.
He said $50 to $60.
So it's
$50 to
$50 now,
$60.
it's going to go to
Okay.
$60, so
Yeah.
it's
I thought I heard
$10 a
30 to
year
50.
for a resident on the Bayway that buys the pass, so they don't have to pay the toll.
Understand.
So, right, so it's a $10 fee per year increase.
So it's a limited number of people that will be footing
And it's
the
a very
bill.
limited, it's strictly mostly Bayway and Terra Verde residents that buy it. Maybe some St. Pete Beach residents buy it, so they don't
Yeah.
pay the toll and they go back and forth. And so it's a $10 increase a year, so it's not really cumbersome. But I will check with the Terra Verde Association and make sure that they are supportive of it, and I'll get back with you.
That'd be great to get those support. I mean, if those communities are the ones that are footing the bill and they support it, then
Okay.
makes sense. Yes, Commissioner Justice.
And I know we're trying to get out of here by 12, but this is an interesting thing. We get groups all the time that want us to come and write a letter of support to something in Tallahassee that's going on, and we have resisted that a lot. I'm not talking specifically about this necessarily, but just in general, we have kind of been very deliberative about which ones we get in there. And this one is a fee increase that we have no, it's just a very interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I have two questions. Number one, I'd like to know how many people buy that pass, so we know what the lay of the land is. And number two, I'd like to know, given the number of people that have bought the pass today, how much money is that going to generate if we were to send this letter and generate that increase? I think that would be something we would want to know, right?
Okay. Yes, Brian's has a meeting with Terra Verde Community Association, I think this afternoon, he said, and so he can gather that information for you.
It's the Bayway ABC, not Terra Verde, that has all that information, and it should be in the Bill's analysis, the staff
Okay.
analysis, so we can get that for you too, if it's in there.
Okay.
Do you have two questions?
I did.
Okay.
My second question is, do you want us to do our individual commission board reports, or do you want to wait till Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? We are adjourned.